Welcome to our Savitri Sunday, October 11th, 2020. There are many things from Sri Aurobindo to share with you today, so we may not get too far because these are so important, and many of us who have maybe not had the opportunity to read all of Sri Aurobindo's works can benefit by this. We are beginning with the words, "He lived in the mystic space where thought is born." Now, here he's using mystic as an adjective, and I will define that. It is of an occult character, power, or significance. And it is also having an import not apparent to the senses, nor obvious to the intelligence. So it's beyond ordinary understanding. But then Sri Aurobindo tells us, and I quote, "I use the word mystic in the sense of a certain kind of inner seeing and feeling of things, a way which to the intellect would seem occult and visionary. For this is something different from imagination and its work with which the intellect is familiar." And this was in Sri Aurobindo on himself. Now, in his letters on Savitri, Sri Aurobindo gives us two enlightening passages on the mystic. Of course, the dictionary saying having a spiritual reality, import, or union with the divine, not apparent to the intelligence or senses. But what Sri Aurobindo tells us also is that the mystic feels real and present, even ever present to his experience, intimate to his being, truths which to the ordinary reader are intellectual abstractions or metaphysical speculations. And one more from the letters on Savitri. To the mystic, there is no such thing as an abstraction. Everything which to the intellectual mind is abstract has a concreteness, substantiality, which is more real than the sensible form of an object or of a physical event. So it's taken all that time to read you one line, but I felt very important. And will is nursed by an ethereal power, the second line. And of course, ethereal here is of the celestial spheres, heavenly. And then we have this rather challenging line, and fed on the white milk of the eternal strengths, till it grows into the likeness of a god. Dear Vladimir, I think we need a very thorough explanation from the Vedas or the Upanishads of these lines. Would you help us?
Into the likeness of a god. It's quite interesting because before this session of home choir, we had meeting with a group on Vedas, and we read the first hymn in the sixth mandala by Bharadvaja. And here Sri Aurobindo translates that man is building the Godheads in himself and discovers the first leader of this journey, fire, Agni, behind all the Godheads. And so that is the vision of us constantly growing in consciousness and become even as gods, he says somewhere.
Wonderful. And then we continue with, in the witnesses' occult rooms with mind-built walls. Sri Aurobindo, in his essays on the Gita, gives us a definition of the witness soul. Quote, the witness soul is the immutable Purusha. So we now understand that the witness soul is the immutable Purusha. On hidden interiors, lurking passages, opened the windows of the inner sight. Now, this is going to necessitate a long passage from Sri Aurobindo to help us understand the inner vision. Quote, this is from Letters on Yoga. There is an inner vision that opens when one does sadhana, and all sorts of images rise before it or pass. Their coming does not depend on your thought or will. It is real and automatic. Just as your physical eyes see things in the physical world, so the inner eyes see things and images that belong to the other worlds, and subtle images of things of this physical world also. And again, in his letters on yoga, he says, inner vision is vivid, like actual sight, always precise, and contains a truth in it. And then this passage from the Life Divine, which is so important. When we see with the inner vision and sense, and not with the physical eye, a tree or other object, what we become aware of is an infinite one reality, constituting the tree or object, pervading its every atom and molecule, forming them out of itself, building the whole nature, process of becoming, operation of indwelling energy. All of these are itself, are this infinite, this reality. We see it extending indivisibly and uniting all objects so that none is really separate from it or quite separate from other objects. It stands, says the Gita, quote, undivided in beings and yet as if divided, end quote. Thus, each object is that infinite and one, in essential being with all other objects that are also forms and names, powers, numens of the infinite. And now an even longer passage from this line. He owned the house of undivided time. And I have a long paragraph from Letters on Yoga, because we need to take some time to explore Sri Aurobindo's words on time. For now, Aswapati owns the house of time, which is undivided. Quote, time and space are not limited. They are infinite. They are the terms of an extension of consciousness in which things take place or are arranged in certain relation, succession, order. There are again different orders of time and space. That too depends on the consciousness. The eternal is extended in time and space, but he is also beyond all time and space. Timelessness and time are two terms of the eternal existence. The spaceless eternal is not one indivisible infinity of space. There is in it no near or far, no here or there. The timeless eternal is not measurable by years or hours or eons. The experience of it has been described as the eternal moment. But for the mind, this state cannot be described except by negatives. One has to go beyond and to realize it, end quote. And one last brief quote, or two. From the synthesis of yoga, time presents itself to human effort as an enemy or a friend, as a resistance, a medium, or an instrument. But always it is really the instrument of the soul. And in the Life Divine, he says, time is a manifestation of the eternal. Our next line, lifting the heavy curtain of the flesh. Yes, the flesh is a heavy curtain. And when it is lifted, we are free of gravity, free of the heaviness of the body. And the next line, oh, he stood upon a threshold, serpent watched. In his letters on yoga, Sri Aurobindo speaks of the serpent, and I'll give you three brief quotes. The serpent is a symbol of force, very often a hostile or evil force of the vital plane. And then again, he says in letters on yoga, serpents indicate always energies of nature and very often bad energies of the vital plane. But they can also indicate luminous or divine energies, like the snake of Vishnu. And lastly, the serpent is the symbol of energy, especially of the Kundalini Shakti, which is the divine force coiled up in the lowest physical center, Muladhara. And when it rises up, it goes up through the spine and joins the higher consciousness above. Well, I've given you a lot of quotes, so we have 3 lines now. And peered into gleaming endless corridors, silent and listening in the silent heart for the coming of the new and the unknown. This is one of the passages that have constantly repeated itself in my consciousness, a passage so filled with beauty and the promise of the new world. I'll read it again and then the next 2 lines. Silent and listening in the silent heart for the coming of the new and the unknown. He gazed across the empty stillnesses and heard the footsteps of the undreamed idea. We have here 2 words that are very important. Undreamed here is not apprehended, even in a dream or dreams, not imagined or thought of. An idea, which Sri Aurobindo capitalizes, and we have some quotes from him that are very, very important. The first 2 are from the supramental manifestation. The idea is the realization of a truth in consciousness, as the fact is its realization in power. Once again, the idea is the realization of a truth in consciousness, as the fact is its realization in power. And again from the supramental manifestation. The idea is not a reflection of the external fact, which it so much exceeds. Rather, the fact is only a partial reflection of the idea which has created it. And now, very important passages, and they're rather long, but I feel I should read them to you from the Life Divine that give us the complete understanding of the idea, capital I. And we should take some time to listen to his words. Quote, "The view I am presenting goes farther in idealism. It sees the creative idea, capital I, as real idea. Both the R and the I are capitalized in real idea. That is to say, a power of conscious force, expressive of real being, born out of real being and partaking of its nature, and neither a child of the void nor a weaver of fictions. It is conscious reality, throwing itself into mutable forms of its own imperishable and immutable substance. The world is therefore not a figment of conception in the universal mind, but a conscious birth of that which is beyond mind into forms of itself." And two more from this, the Life Divine. "In supermind being, consciousness of knowledge and consciousness of will are not divided, as they seem to be in our mental operations. They are a trinity, one movement with three effective aspects. Each has its own effect. Being gives the effect of substance, consciousness the effect of knowledge, of the self-guiding and shaping idea, of comprehension and apprehension. Will gives the effect of self-fulfilling force. But the idea is only the light of the reality illumining itself. It is not mental thought nor imagination, but effective self-awareness. It is real idea, both words capitalized. And lastly, as mind is only a final operation of supermind. Imagine that. As mind is only a final operation of supermind, so life is only a final operation of the consciousness force, of which real idea is the determinative form and creative agent. Consciousness is that force. Consciousness that is force is the nature of being, and this conscious being, manifested as a creative knowledge will, is the real idea, or supermind. In the far avenues of the beyond. Sri Aurobindo in the Upanishads tells us, quote, "The language of the Upanishad makes it strikingly clear that it is no metaphysical abstraction, no void silence, no indeterminate absolute, which is offered to the soul that aspires, but rather the absolute of all that is possessed by it here in the relative world of its sojourning. All here in the mental is a growing light. consciousness, and life. All there in the supramental is an infinite life, light, and consciousness. That which is here shadowed is there found. The incomplete here is there the fulfilled. The beyond is not an annihilation, but a transfiguration of all that we are here in our world of forms. It is sovereign mind of this mind, secret life of this life, the absolute sense which supports and justifies our limited senses. Here we live in an organization of mortal consciousness, which takes the form of a transient world. There we are liberated into the harmonies of an infinite self-seeing, which knows all world in the light of the eternal and immortal. The beyond is our reality. That is our plenitude. That is the absolute satisfaction of our self-existence. It is immortality, and it is, in quotes, that delight. The next two lines, he heard the secret voice, the word that knows, and saw the secret face that is our own. These beautiful and powerful lines should be repeated often, for the secret face, the voice, and the word, both capitalized, are our own. When I asked Alok Pandey and Amal Kiran about their understanding of the voice, capital V, they gave me the following. Alok, the divine voice that sings to the soul of immortal deeds and reminds us of the epic climb. Amal answered, on every plane there is the power, which is a revealer of undying rhythms of truth, like a high priest uttering ultimate secrets of existence. The inner planes uncovered their crystal doors. Now, Sri Aurobindo explains the third eye, and writes, further vision is of value because it is often a first key to inner planes of one's own being and one's own consciousness, as distinguished from worlds or planes of the cosmic consciousness. And a crystal, we should define crystal here because it is a mineral, obviously, many of you are aware of that, especially a transparent form of quartz, being transparent as water. And now I just read two lines. Strange powers and influences touched his life. A vision came of higher realms than ours. A consciousness of brighter fields and skies. There is so much to share with you on consciousness that I'm going to wait until next week because there are many things to share with you. I want to speak for a few moments about the way I am presenting Savitri. As it comes to me, I feel, and in my inner being, I know from Sri Aurobindo. And perhaps it is only a little that I can grasp, but I offer it in all humility to you. And if you would like to see the text of these Savitri Sundays, I could begin with this Sunday. And if you will write to me, if you are interested, at Narada, NARADA, the number 12, at gmail.com, I will send you the texts of these talks. If you would like previous ones, I believe I have kept most of them and would be able to send them to you as well. We are obliged to end today at 11 o'clock because of a previous engagement of our host. But I really do want to make this offer to you and to tell you also that questions are always welcomed. And if you have a question that neither I nor Vladimir might be able to answer, we will say so and find the answers in the works of Sri Aurobindo and Mother. So I wish you a wonderful week. Try to read Savitri every day, as I do. And I have sessions now with, I believe, 3 people on a regular basis, reading at least every day or twice a week. And if anyone is very, very interested, and I emphasize that, you could write to me if you would like to read some passages of Savitri together. Namaste to all, and see you next Sunday. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you, Namaste,
Naradji.
Thank you so much,
Namaste.
Naradji.
Thank you, Narad ji.
Thank you.